Mayor and City Council members. After my comments to the City Council on June 12, I sent an email to each City Council member expressing my concern about further staff reductions and listed some factors that may or may not have been considered. A response I received seemed to not address the issues I was asking about, but to express strong support for the city manager and emphasized how hard she works. I want to make it clear that none of my comments are about how hard the city manager works or doesn't work. I'm sure she works very hard, and I believe she knows more about the overall operation of the city than anyone in this room. As I have listened to these meetings, I have been impressed with her knowledge on a variety of subjects affecting the city, far more than I know or care to be involved in. Having said that, she is only one person. She cannot be expert on every topic, nor can she possibly have sufficient time to address each of the issues facing the city with a kind of detailed analysis, research, and reflection that is needed to problem solve them all, especially as complex as these issues are. She needs committed, knowledgeable support staff. The city of Fillmore seems, from my viewpoint and some others in the city, to be turning into a contract city, where we may have more independent contractors or companies running the city than we do employees. That isn't common for a city based on my research. There are reasons that cannot always be determined by a calculator for having employees versus independent contractors. I have yet to hear a complete analysis of what the net savings has been from prior staff reductions. I am concerned about the cost effectiveness of further staff reductions. I am concerned about the degree to which independent contractors or companies are being delegated supervision over existing staff. Therefore, on June 19th, I submitted a public records request for payroll and independent contractor documents, as well as lists of employees and contract staff for the last 3 years. Okay, my next comment just addresses these workshops. The City Council continues to conduct these budget workshops at arm's length by sitting on the dais behind this podium and waiting for individuals or organizations to come forward with questions or ideas, rather than actively seeking input more proactively, such as by hosting focus groups where brainstorming can take place and people can work together to come up with ideas better than any one of them might have thought of on their own. What I do hold the City Council responsible for is a lack of initiative to proactively interact with the public in a meaningful way to address city problems. Casual conversation occasionally with citizens is not the same thing as a focus group. What have you got to lose by trying to involve citizens in a way that promotes group discussion? I listened to Cindy talk last week about the pool and recognized how much effort she put forth to come up with her suggestions. However, not everyone can handle the intimidation of standing in front of the podium while knowing you're on television and speak to public officials who, through no fault of their own, often don't know the answers to questions without research. Even the city manager, as knowledgeable as she is, can't always know the answer off the top of her head. So where do we have the give and take, the question and answer? Do I have to come back to another city meeting, council meeting to get an answer to my question? Those kinds of things that would be taken care of less formally and more fully in a focus group. Citizens in Fillmore love the city. We take pride in it. We love the feeling of community, and we have seen the generosity of citizens and organizations who want our city to prosper and are willing to help, but might be more forthcoming in a relaxed, informal setting, knowing that we will have follow-up meetings until all questions are answered and all ideas explored, rather than beginning a deadline of the 1st of July because, gosh, we got to get the budget done. You know, we've got this deadline on us. For example, last week the city manager stated something about the city's unemployment insurance rate, which caused me to wonder if the city is paying a percentage of payroll in UI taxes, or if they are using a cost of benefits pay method, which only requires the city to pay the actual cost of claims and not maintain a reserve account with the state. And you have to determine, are your claims more than your percentage of payroll that you pay to see if this is cost effective. But public agencies can do this, whereas private sector cannot. She probably knows all that, but I don't know if that's something that's been explored as a cost-saving measure for staff expense. This is just one example of many questions that could be explored if a couple of members of the City Council were willing to meet with citizens in a series of true workshops focused on one topic at a time. Workshops that could be publicly announced and posted on the city's website a couple of weeks in advance, and repeated until sufficient brainstorming resulted in realistic solutions or acceptance of the proposed action. These types of groups can be done year-round, not just once a year when a budget deadline is looming and in a city council meeting format that does not allow sufficient time for group discussion or answering and researching all questions. In closing, when people are involved in the decision process, they are more committed to its success, may be more generous when inspired by the group energy, and are more accepting of decisions than they are if they are not involved in those decisions and those problem-solving methods. The kind of solutions we need in Fillmore require more discussion than one person at a time, asking questions or making suggestions into this microphone at a city council meeting. Citizens of Fillmore are a great resource and offer services at no expense to the city. Thank you.
And just a comment, Mayor, on your comments about vandalism and about seeing crime being committed. I can't tell you how important that is for people to call in right away, not 2 or 3 hours later, but right away. You never know when a car is around the corner, or you never know when somebody else is watching and they see the same thing. And it's those witness identifications that get to us quickly that we can do a better job. And I hate to see an apathetic community, and this is not one. This one, actually, we get a lot of calls. I just encourage that more.
Thank you very much. Question, can we use the 911?
Oh, yes. Yeah, please do it. And it used to be back in the day, you don't use 911 unless it's a strict emergency. And I've had many conversations with our communications dispatcher. 911 is the quickest way to get through, and they will screen you. Is this an emergency? Well, how can we help you? And I'm reporting a vandalism in progress. That's an emergency, because you don't know what that's going to spawn into. And if we can get there quickly, please do that. And that's the easiest.
You know, I'm all for passing a budget. You know, we need to have a budget. From what I've been looking at it, it's very hard to distinguish what's what. But I guess the bottom line is 6 million goes in and 6 million goes out. But yet there's still a 1.5 million deficit that's going to have to be pulled out of the sky, or you know, or we're going to have to bake cakes and sell about 1 million cakes. And that doesn't even count some of the things that are going to come up throughout the year, which will lead to an amended budget come the middle of the year, such as the legal services. I would assume would far exceed $280,000 with all the litigation that's the city is involved with. What I find troubling is when I look at the, you know, I'm trying to like find out how this budget can be, you know, lowered, the expenses, and but yet I look at some of the warrant lists and I fail to understand what some of this stuff is even for. One being Ronald Cunningham for professional services, gives me no idea what he does. David Burkhart for consulting services, he was $4,500 roughly. The Cunningham was $5,950. There's another one for Stewart Consulting Services for $11,100. My question is, does the chamber here, the council, are you aware of what all those consulting are for? And because certainly the public isn't. So that's quite a lot of money. Just to get back to a couple of the other items, you know, it's like generally when you're having to create a budget, you've got basically, I've seen many pie charts from the city manager, divvying up, you know, the expenses and the income, and but yet when you create a budget, I believe, and you've got $1 million shortfall, you've got to spread the cuts throughout the whole pie on an equal basis. Otherwise, you're stating that one thing's not important as the other. Yet I think they all need to work cohesively. You know, like if you were to close the bathrooms, that would create more of a job for the sheriff's department, etc. On a more minute note, the warrant list for June 12th meeting of the City Council. There were 2 checks issued for installing 2 toilets at the fire station on May 16th for $472.70 each, for a total of $945.40. I think some more thought needed to go into that, because, I mean, you can buy a top-of-the-line commercial handicapped toilet for less than $200, and it takes about 5 minutes to pull the old one off and 5 minutes to put the new one down, because they've recently done it. So I think in the future, when we have an item like that, I'm not sure who authorizes this, but whoever it is, maybe we need to think about, you know, the volunteering type of thing. I remember when the senior citizens needed to replace their toilet. I believe they went out and purchased their toilet for a little over $100, and they paid nothing to have it installed. They did get someone to donate their time to do that. Had I known there was a need, I would have offered to do it myself, because I've replaced a few toilets in my time. The other thing that I noticed in the current warrant list, there was a check for June 12th for KSSP Photographic Studios for headshots for the City Council in the amount of $536.25. It's my belief that 4 of the council members already had headshots in the lobby. There was only need for 1 additional headshot, Mr. Gonzalez. And I find that here we are 5 months before an election. 3 of you who got new headshots may not be here come January. So I find that this whole thing was ill-timed, and that there could have been probably at least a savings of $400, because I think we only needed 1 headshot. And that one could have possibly been an existing photograph that Mr. Gonzalez probably had in his collection. So I just wanted to bring those couple of things up that I think we need to, you know, stop thinking about filet mignon. Maybe, you know, start getting into the nitty-gritty and start thinking hamburger helper.
Okay.
So,
would you like an answer to your questions now?
Yeah, I would,
Okay.
please.
I will say, you know, you brought up the consultants, and I will tell you that the council has the same concerns that you do, and in fact, we annoy staff on a daily basis. What is this for? What are you doing? So don't think that it's not being looked at, because it is. And I don't think staff likes it when we do that, but we do on your behalf.
Is it possible that I mean, where you've got on your warrant list that it says, for instance,
I
Actually, I
Let me
can,
find the page.
we can answer the question. The question is, what is Ron doing? He was doing all the assessment district stuff, plus the audit that the citizens asked for. David Burkhart has been employed as a consultant by the city for many years, doing water and sewer work. And Steve Stewart is our contract building official, and this year he is going to a flat rate contract starting July 1st.
Okay, but I mean, just for the benefit of the public and for transparency, is it possible, I mean, you list, you know, Stewart Consulting, it's like, right below it, is it possible you can just say, you know, building inspector department, or, you know, Ronald Cunningham, professional services board, just very, you know.
I don't know that the software, maybe Glenda would have to address that, I don't know if the software has that much room in it.
But I mean,
To
you know,
edit.
the only other option would be, you know, to bombard your city staff with numerous emails. And, you know,
They're
so
already
I
doing
think-
that too.
I think if you know, just put, you know, maybe like just a little something underneath what the name or whatever, so just to give a little clarification so the public can understand that where the money's going.
Okay.